Thanks for watching. Let's get right to the point. I am giving away one or more copies of College Football 26 to one or more lucky winners on their platform of choice. All you got to do is go to the link in the description to enter. And if you want me to give away more copies, I'm giving away up to like 10. Go ahead, click the link, read through the rules, and see what you need to do to increase that giveaway pool. Anyways, once again, thanks for watching. Now off to my first video in like 6 or 7 years. What is up, YouTube? It has been 7 years since I made a full video. Why? A lot of reasons, but maybe that's a completely normal channel hiatus. I don't know. I'm not a professional YouTuber, but my friend EKI Butters, he's been doing this YouTube thing for a little over a year now, and he's made over 557 videos compared to my one in this time range, actually in the past year alone. So that's not an accomplishment on my part, but I'm gonna make sure this is something good. So you might know me as the guy who made the video of every NCAA football game that ever happened and had this huge view spike, 250,000 views, or you might know me as the guy who did the AWS VPS thing back in 2015. I was back in high school. And since then, I pretty much went to college, graduated top of my class. I'm now a full stack software engineer. And I am also the guy who ripped all of the ratings out of College Football 25, the top selling sports game of 2024, and created a website called TeamCrafters that originally was going to be for just Team Builder, but I realized there were some more needs in the community as well, and that's what this video is going to serve as. Kind of a summary of what caused me to get started, how I made it, some of the technical things I've done in the development of it, and kind of what I've seen as an outcome of it, and what my plans are for College Football 2026. So let's get started. Yeah, so let's start with that NCAA every game ever video I made. I made it back on this tiny little laptop back in high school. It was like a very cheap laptop, and it took like hours for that video to render, and it did well. It did well on my YouTube channel. And then like in 2020, when it was announced that a new NCAA football game was coming, that video just spiked. It was crazy. I was monetized at the time, and it made about $500 in AdSense revenue for that 1 month, and maybe a little bit trickled down. My channel is not monetized anymore because I went completely dormant on YouTube, but today I'm going to revive it for at least one more video. But yeah, when that video kind of shot up, I was like, oh, maybe I should get involved in the new NCAA video game. I mean, I was busy with work, had a nice job at the time, still have a nice job now, but nothing really motivating me to build a online community outside of just random posting and making meme teams for my friends and doing the Battle of the Berries and stuff like that. But yeah, flash forward to 2024. Sorry about the random jump cut. I ended up accidentally streaming to Twitch because the buttons in OBS for streaming and recording way too close to each other. Didn't know that. Lost a few minutes of footage. Let's get back to recording. Okay, it is 2024. EA finally reveals College Football 25. And this is like my dream come true for the past few years. I loved NCAA 14. Ready to play College Football 25. I got friends that are going to buy PS5s, ready to just play the heck out of this game. And during the announcement cycle, they're announcing Team Builder is coming back, and I'm like, yeah, I love Team Builder. I made Battle of the Berries, like 5 people watched it, so I was ready and I was hyped to make some teams. I mean, I made my own high school in Team Builder, I made my college in Team Builder, and what came up was EA was quick to announce they're going to make a content filter for Team Builder. I'm like, oh, what kind of content filter? Because they knew people were going to be making FCS D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO. I don't even think they really cared about high schools at that point, but it was really the collegiate level sports that they were really trying to protect the IP of. And I'm like, yeah, people are going to work around that, but they're going to make it horrible to search. So that's when I was like, oh, well, let's make a website to store all that. I have the list of the teams. Well, maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but there was that idea, and I had to make a website. Obviously, I had to come up with a name. Kind of just tossing up some names in my head. Nothing really stuck until I kind of had the idea of TeamCrafters. And I was like, okay, maybe that hits. Domain names available. I found some logo generation tools with AI. Ooh, AI, don't come at me. I mean, this is just a side project. Ooh, I'm not making hundreds of thousands of dollars on this yet. So, okay, I found this logo and it just spat out this logo, and I was like, okay, wait, this is kind of cool. This hits. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So yeah, so let's get to it. I'm ready to start coding, and knowing about my career, I've had a lot of involvement in startups. I built mobile apps, I built websites, built out databases, literally full stack guy. So I'm just gonna go ahead, solo this project myself and get to it. And me being the cheapskate I am, I'm like, all right, how can I host it for free? So lo and behold, I've used Versal before. They're great. They have generous free limits. And I was like, okay, cool. I have my platform. I'm a Next.js guy, JavaScript all the way, front end, back end. Now, what's the next step? So the next step was the theming, and not really a UI guy, but I can kind of tell what looks cool and what not. I don't know. I think it looks cool. But I went with a kind of a darker theme with grays, blacks, and blues. And when it all came together with the logo, I was like, okay, this is cool. I can do something with this. So now I'm building out this database where people can submit teams and link them to real colleges and see it all on a map and see what the progress is. So like FCS is like 27% done and stuff like that. But it was a really cool concept, and I was doing this all in June, 1 month before CFB 25 came out. And I needed a way to build some hype. And then I came across Bardo's tweet, the "Hey, I am Quinn Ewers" tweet, where the face scan of Quinn Ewers looked a lot like him, and it went viral. And I'm like, oh wait, this could be cool. Like, people saw Travis Hunter's face scan, they saw Quinn Ewers or Bardo, whoever it really was. But I was like, what if I can get people to do their own face scans? Because there was a video game like aspect to it. There was an aesthetic. So I was trying to think of what I could do. So if you're looking at my GPU poor hat, that kind of means I know a bit about AI image generation. And my friend and co-founder, Omer, he developed this model at this time, maybe a couple months before, called OmniZero, which allows you to take any person, put it in a style, and put it in a composition and combine 3 images. And I went to tinker with his model and see, okay, well, what if I used this base image and I used the Quinn Ewers face scan, or Bordeaux, whoever it was, and I put my face on it, and that's how I got what is now my profile image on YouTube. So I was like, okay, this works. What's next? So I had the idea of the magic crystal ball showing where a player is going to sign, what's their probability, maybe what's their star rating, just a cool little thing for people to do to get hyped for the game. So I went ahead and did what any indie hacker would do, and that is throw together an MVP in like 2 or 3 days and throw it on Product Hunt and see what happens. And it got 35 upvotes. I didn't expect it to do great, but it was cool. I started shamelessly promoting it on Twitter, replies, posting, stuff like that to try and get attention, and link to the Discord server, and people are joining, people are signing up. It's growing. I'm like, oh no, this is cool. But it was also stuff that I had to kind of go out of pocket for to pay for the processing costs, because I'm like, I'm not making any money from this. I'm not charging people for this, but I don't have any ad backed revenue for this. I was like, kind of hoping it blows up, but not too much, because I didn't want to go broke at the time in processing fees. But yeah, that was a whole pipeline that I made using, the Next.js website. I used Firebase for the backend database, just because I wanted to keep this separate from the Postgres database that I was managing for the TeamCrafters website. And I used the OmniZero stack, used it on FAL, the GPU guys, and made a pretty cool product. I mean, it built some hype, and I was pretty proud of it. And now we're ready to start for the big event, which is the launch of CFB 25. So I'm continuing to try and build hype for TeamCrafters, and I wanted to build hype towards the purpose of it, building a community that was going to document all of the college football teams in Team Builder. And we're getting really close to release date. This is like the first week of July, last week of June, something like that. And one thing I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. I decide to go buy some ads on twitter.com. I'm not calling it X. I'm just not even going to go on a rant about Elon. I'm just going to call it Twitter. And here's a picture of me with my Tesla. That's it. That's all you need to know. I'm just going to call it Twitter. So I bought ads on twitter.com and it worked. I was getting tens of, I was paid maybe like $10, and I was getting tens of hundreds of thousands of impressions. The Discord server was blowing up. Blowing up like to 250 people, I think we got to at the time of release. And, outside of running Gamerpalooza, even including Gamerpalooza, that was my biggest community I ever started. So we had the hype there. And now all I had to do was execute when Team Builder came out and figure out, okay, how am I going to reverse engineer this thing when the game comes out? July 19th, 2024, perhaps the biggest date in video game sports history. College Football 25 came out on that day, and that is a day that will forever be in my head. Not only because I waited years for this, and also I was playing it for like the week before because everybody got early access, but Team Builder came out. Now it's showtime. Let's get TeamCrafters going. However, I had no idea how the website worked. I'm just like, okay, this website's cool. It sucked. The interface searching on the console sucked. It worked. You couldn't be signed in on a console while you're searching the website. I found that stupid on so many levels. And you just couldn't do it on mobile. So if you are somebody who's just a casual gamer, you can't just pick up your phone and find if your team's on Team Builder or not while you're in the middle of maybe like a dynasty game or something. And I was like, ooh, opportunity. I can just build an integration with the official Team Builder site and have people directly import their teams into the website. Now, talking about the website database, look, it's a Postgres stack. I used Vercel. It's free and so many generous levels up into a limit, which you're going to find about later. But I think I made a good choice using just Postgres and Vercel stack to start off. I probably could have used a NoSQL database, but I don't want to talk that much into it. Let's talk about football for a second, shall we? So I am using the Team Builder website and trying to find out, okay, what goes on here? What kind of API calls we have going on? And I find these interesting URLs. So I'm going to show y'all kind of bits and pieces of this. So EA kind of has their own authentication service. It's kind of like basic OAuth 2. You get a token, you need to refresh it after a certain time, and I get all that information and I cache it server side, so I kind of don't need to request a token every time. And I'm using like an extra EA account that I made. So all of this kind of runs in the background, and for searching teams, they use their own little service. They use their own, like, I guess it's some sort of CDN for file delivery. It's called Blaze. But they have their own buckets for game IDs, like they have College FB 01 and Madden 2025, which is interesting that their code for College FB is also consoles PC. Unless they're talking about the web. CFB 25, CFB 26, PC confirmed, question mark? But yeah, they have their own web service that you can kind of query and get teams by what they call an asset ID. You grab that team data and it gets information in a JSON format. This is, in short, this just makes a web request, gets a JSON object, has what's called a primary URL, thumbnail URL, primary, secondary, tertiary color. And these guys are just colors that you configure for the team. And the thumbnail is the logo, but the primary URL, this is what has all of your information. It has your roster data, it has your team name, your playbook, stuff like that. So I call the data URL with the token, with the asset ID. I fetch the roster data, and that gives me a giant JSON file full of basically just that. So I take the data, I extract it, I dump it into my Postgres database because I don't want to keep making requests over to EA's database. I don't want to put a lot of stress on their server, so I'm just going to cache a lot of stuff on my side. So when all this data is laid out, I can give you the team logo, I can give you the name. This is actually like user defined here, but you can link it to a college, like he linked Harvard here. And this is all the search information that if you were on your console, you can do this on your mobile phone as well. You can look up, obviously the game is CFB 25. You can look up Harvard U by DK9998 EA, and the nickname would be Crimson. And then you should get this exact same Harvard team that Diamond King used for Bordeaux's video. And that's kind of the import process in a nutshell. I kind of save it in here. And if you want to go and maybe search Team Builder later on, it's all the same API calls. Maybe I have a little design work to do here. But you can just search for a team and be university. Cool. And yeah, you get something like this. And if you wanted to preview their roster, we actually have their roster in here, a yellow field, and you can see their roster. All of this is imported right from EA. And with this JSON structure that EA used, now I actually want to talk about the uniforms. And the reason I don't have uniform previews on the website is because of the technique used to create the uniforms. The uniforms are rendered in 3D, like the textures are obviously flat, but to preview the full uniform, I would need to import the assets for the helmet, the jersey, the pads, the pants. I'd have to import that and know how to put the assets across it. And also that doesn't include the patterns and the colors, and that's a lot of work. If you really want to see it, you can just view it on the Team Builder website yourself using this search information. But this should give you enough to see if this is like a legit team or not. Now, with this roster that I'm showing right here, this is actually one of the first things I want to talk about next. So if you were paying attention, good for you. You might remember the Jerry's Berries, the team that I was kind of memeing around with when we did the Battle of the Berries back then. And I was like, what if I could make this team all giant dudes and made them all, 150 overall, whatever the limit was, and put them into the game. Well, the team structure in the JSON file I was talking about is exactly what I need to exploit this. And it only took me one day to figure out how to break this. And by break it, I mean mod it. I'm going to call myself the first person to mod College Football 25. And by that, I got players with 125 overall ratings. I made them 10 feet tall, 360 pounds. They were all just crazy. And it using this same JSON structure that the files and the assets were stored in, turns out you can actually upload your own JSON over if you have the correct authentication token, which I already cracked the authentication token for Team Builder on day one. And now I know how their upload process is. I can just take my own metadata for a team. Now, one thing you can't do in Team Builder is you can't change the names of the players, and you can't make them either really short or really big. Well, if you get the JSON data of the teams and you tweak it just a little bit, you can change their ratings to 125 overall. So you have this JSON data that is made for every roster, and it has different things such as player role, player position, player age. It has all this information. I think it's shared with Madden. Like, it has their asset name, which is like the player that they're actually based off of. But if you see here, it has player first name, and there's like last name or something. Yeah, player last name. And there's also like each of these are just numbers you can change. And I found the limits, and you can go and basically take this file and say, okay, well, I want to make this guy, I want to make his, his last name Trosclair, and I want to take his first name and change it to Jerry. And if I want to take his height and change his height from 76, that would be like what, 6'4", and that would make, and then I can change him to 106, make him just this massive giant. Same thing with weight. You can change his, oops, I spelled that wrong. You can change his weight from 152 to 300, 460 pounds. Like, there are limits, but there are all these things. You can even change their QB style. That's like their throwing motion and stuff. Salary, that's where I think Madden comes into place. But you can just make all these changes and intercept the API call using Postman Inspector and upload your own custom JSON asset into the game. And when I tested this, I mean, you can see the short that's playing over right here. It worked. I was like, holy moly, I'm like the first person to do this. And I tried to build a lot of hype, and for some reason it just never really caught on. I mean, I was really hoping this was my big break to get TeamCrafters going. I mean, we were getting views. I just wasn't getting a lot of views, and I really wanted to get the website monetized so I can try to get, some premium services like an actual dedicated server, because I knew Versal, like, their limits are free up to a point, and Google just wasn't approving my AdSense application. Big bummer. I was really hoping I could make more off of this, but yeah, it was just modifying a JSON file, which caused you to be able to make pretty much any team you wanted outside of the restrictions EA allowed. Don't you just like it whenever you cut a part of the video and then you forget to click record again? Oh my god, I'm so out of this game. Anyways, it's been a couple months since I launched TeamCrafters, since the game came out, and never really had that big moment. I went ahead and I was like, maybe I could like vibe code my way into a mobile application, get it on the App Store, get it monetized via AdMob, because AdMob doesn't require the same monetization requirements as AdSense. So AdMob is for apps. AdSense is for websites, which AdSense is really the same thing that runs like your pre-roll ads on YouTube. But I was really trying to get monetized on the website because it had more traffic. So I could try and, invest a little bit more into the site. Okay, the app didn't do much. But one thing that I found out is on EA's site here, they don't really give you a lot for the top ratings. Like, they give you just the name, team, overall speed, acceleration, strength, awareness, jumping. And that's it. Like, I can't look up some, random guy from Louisiana Lafayette or something if he's like a 72 overall. That's it. Just the top 100 players. We don't even have the ability. So if I try to click into Travis Hunter, I don't know what abilities he has. I just know he's a 99 overall with 99 speed, 99 acceleration, 99 awareness, yada yada. I don't know what his catching is. I don't know what his man coverage is. I don't know what his physical, his mental abilities are. I don't know his height. I don't know his weight. I don't know anything that me as a dynasty player would really want to know about my matchup for Travis Hunter. So, opportunity time. And I was like, okay, let's see how I can get the roster off my game and import it in to my database. And it is not easy. It is really not easy. I probably could have modded my PS5 and tried to get the data off of it some other way, but I did not want to mod my PS5. I bought this exclusively to play the game. I did not want to get banned. And I tried to intercept my files using Wireshark. I don't know a lot about network security to really kind of make sense of it. It didn't work. And the only solution for it was really painful and mentally painful, and it took a lot, and I'm going to try to share as much as I can with that to show you how I got the ratings out of the game and into TeamCrafters. So this is like the first time I really show any portion of the code I have to extract the ratings. And what I'm using to extract the ratings is something called OCR, Optical Character Recognition. It's basically machine learning, AI, whatever you want to call it. It's more or less just a machine learning algorithm. I use Tesseract. I used Easy OCR. There's different models that work better for different parts in the game. And boy, was this like just very strenuous to run. So I have an ROG Ally, and I tried to run these scripts on the Ally thinking that it wouldn't take a lot. It was just text recognition. It took a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna show my serial number, but just know that my MacBook Pro has an M4 Pro, 48 gigs of RAM. It's almost top of the line, and that memory and that CPU really comes in play. Well, not the CPU more or less, but the GPU power of the M4 Pro is what really kind of got me to somewhat effectively run these scripts. But I have all these Python scripts that go, and yeah, they were kind of vibe coded, but this is just a scratch. I mean, it's literally a folder called untitled folder, and that's how I extracted all of this. And I just make changes as we go. And if you go and if you go into the final rosters, you can see I have data in here, and it has their names, it has their positions, it has their abilities, cool stuff like that. And the way I did that with OCR is I had to go frame by frame. And now let's say shout out to Chiaki. If you want me to show you Chiaki is a open source remote play client for your PS5. Chiaki, there we go. Yeah, cool. That's my local IP. It really doesn't matter, but you can connect to your PS5 with Chiaki. And why Chiaki and not the official remote play client? Well, the official remote play client for PlayStation requires you to plug in a PS5 controller to use it. That's not going to work for my automation script. For automation, I need a keyboard input. And that's where Chiaki allowed you to control your PS5 with any controller or keyboard input. So that's great. That's why I did it here. Now, to show you what I did for each frame in the roster, I took out... So there's 3 sections that I took from a standard roster picture. For each frame, I took the headers, and these are the table headers that are visible at the time of when the capture was taken. So you see we have player, position, overall speed, and we have all this stuff here. And then we have their profile. And this is Ashton Gillett from Louisville. You can see his overall. You can see his full first and last name, his position, tendency, class, height, weight, hometown, and his abilities. So I get this, and this represents the row data here. So you can see this is A Gillett, and you can see it here. And the white data, the white row that was active on the screen, it represents the data that was visible in the profile. Now, maybe I could have recorded all this and went, just scroll through the menus really fast and went for every player, and then I'd have the data captured in less than an hour. Well, the game doesn't render that fast. And by that, I mean the profile actually takes maybe a half a second or quarter of a second to render after you move up and down in the row for the game. So that means I had to kind of purposefully add a delay, and for me to manually go through in a non-automated way and capture all the frames, that would have taken way too long. I don't have the time for that. I have a life outside of this. So I built the automation script, and it just captured all of these frames. And once the frame data is captured, we can go and extract. Why is it zooming in? I can extract the frame data JSON, and it gets just that. It gets his player row, and this is the stuff from... So it takes the header data, takes each of the column headers, takes the corresponding values and puts them in this JSON, and then it goes through the profile, and I have regions blocked off where everything is expected to be. It's not like you just throw this in a program and it's like, oh, give me the data in a JSON. No, you have to identify every region individually and note what that region represents. So, I had to draw boxes basically around each of these screenshots and say, this is class, this is hometown, these are physical. And this goes and represents this. Now I have his information in here. And it's not perfect. Sometimes the OCR will represent, one apostrophe or 2 quotes or something like that. and sometimes the abilities might be misspelled. But one thing I'm really proud of with the abilities is the ability to define the tier. And the way I was able to find the tier is for each ability, I have a region that represents it, and I say, look to the left of it and take that logo and take the average color of it. And if the average color falls within some threshold, that represents a bronze ability, a silver ability, a gold ability, and a platinum ability. Now, this is really helpful, especially because they changed platinum to pink instead of just like a brighter silver. So, shout out Quinshon Judkins and all the spinning headaches that he caused like day one of the game. But now I had a really good way of identifying what tier of each ability each player had. And yeah, you get all this data and you have to go over it. I mean, a single capture of this, of, one team, I think it took about, uninterrupted, maybe took around an hour. And there's like 140 teams in the game. And I could only run this when I was asleep because I used my MacBook for working. So it took a really long time. And when all that data was collected, now I just take all the JSON files and I combine them. And now you import it, right? Wrong. The abilities are misspelled. So you got to go and do a fuzzy search. You have to see which ability it's closest to, replace it with that. And then there are some players that are just completely missing abilities, or not say abilities, but attributes altogether. So you have to go, and I took the rosters, I compiled the rosters, I found, okay, this guy's missing his awareness and his speed. And I made basically a checklist, and now I had the script that I used to identify the team and the player attributes. I had that navigate to each of the players, and using the same system that I had here, extracting the header and the row data, make sure that the header represented the missing attributes I wanted to get, and then I can fetch those and patch those data values in. So the whole process, it takes, even at the fastest, if nothing goes wrong, it takes like a week of downtime for my computer just to really get all this data in. And once it's all in and it's all there, you still have some discrepancies. Now, I'm going to say that this data dump is not perfect, and I'm just going to be fine-tuning this script until we really get it as great as we can, because it's not, not actual text data I can extract here. I can do a decent job at it, but there's restrictions to these OCR models. Once the data is all in its, actually this data is more or less in a CSV format. Cool. I take the data, and now I can dump it into the database, and I can create unique links for each of these players and link it to their team. And now if we go to, teamcrafters.net and we go to our player database, we can see something like this. We can see all the players. Let's say I want to look at LSU, ignore that ad, which we're going to talk about. But now we can see like Will Campbell. Dude's a dog. He has like these abilities here, and every now and then you might see one ability. One thing the OCR really sucked at is values in the 70s. I don't know why, but it was just that leading 7. So the 73 here, that was either like a 73 or a 13, and you just had to use like best guesses on, okay, there's no way that this player had a 13 acceleration, make it a 73. And that's part of the post-processing cleanup that you have to do. And I also made it to where you can, flip between his V1 and V2 versions and see his different ratings. So I also added some, cool features in TeamCrafters. Like we have all his data. We have his, now what EA didn't give us, we have his size, his tendency, his class, his hometown, all of his ratings, other players at left tackle. So I can see Kelvin Banks, Wyatt Millum, and we got Mason Taylor, Harold Perkins, and we can go and we can compare them. So if we want to compare him with Kelvin Banks, we can do that now, and we can see what areas is Banks better than Campbell. And we can see they each have their own unique advantages. And this goes for just every different rating that's recorded in the game. Like, how would you know? Like, Banks is actually a much better kicker. You would have never known that. But when it comes to like run blocking and lead blocking, Campbell is so much better at it, even though he has, one less overall. Banks is even faster. And it's actually crazy because Campbell like ran like what, a 4.8 something, 4.89 at the combine or something the other day. But now you have the tools that you would as, a dynasty, I would call it a manager, but a coach, to see who your matchups are and what matchups you can exploit. And this is not just dynasty. This applies to competitive as well. Like, if you're comparing and you're like, okay, well, the coach cam really isn't what it was as it was in 14. You can see exactly what the matchups are, but you can look up the team quickly on TeamCrafters, look up the guy that you're matching up against and say, okay, well, here's his strong points. He's a burner, but he sucks at catching the ball. So, maybe you want to cover him in a certain way to make him try to make these catches that he's just not going to make. Now I'm on to something. I finally have my breakthrough I've been looking for all these months. You can see here are the Google search results for TeamCrafters. I mean, let me go back a little further. Let's go back 12 months. But you really see what happened on the right. So here is how we were at launch. It did great. Like I really never had any projects to get Google search clicks, but I was like, okay, this is cool. I have a few clicks here, but then it kind of died down, and then I did a little something here, and it goes on. But then when I come out with the player ratings database, it was right at the end of November, early December. I was like, oh shoot, we're getting traffic. And then Google starts indexing more and more of my pages. SEO for the win. And now I upload the new roster 4, and Google keeps indexing and Google keeps recommending this to more and more people. And although I haven't seen that much growth, I mean, we're still on a positive trend line, but we're growing to what I would say is by far the most successful website I've ever ran for myself. I mean, look, 119,000 Google impressions in search, 10,000 clicks. That is insane. And these are sessions that people do, and they explore and they compare once they're in the website. It's amazing to see. I'm so happy I finally get to experience success for a project. Now, the next question you might be wondering is, well, you're making tens of thousands of dollars from this now. I am not, but I'm making money. So when I launched the original player ratings, Google AdSense finally approved me for ad hosting. Waited all these months for it. And boy, is it hard to get in there. You just need Google's trying to prevent AI slop from showing up in their search results. And you got to prove you're not AI slop. You got to prove you're not, your original content. So I go ahead, I get approved, and now I'm starting to see like a few cents a day. And then, bam, Versal is ready to shut down the website. Well, not really shut down the website, but they're going to discontinue the database because I get too much traffic now. Now, their free limits are pretty generous, but once you start to gain traction, it's like, oh shoot, like, you got to start paying for this. And I'm starting to make money, but I have to hurry up and migrate my database over because they're just like, okay, we're going to shut it off. They gave me a few day notice. So I have to do what I first did, 11 years ago when I made that AWS video, and spin up a VPS, move my Postgres database over to AWS, migrate the connection strings, and we're back in business. But I'm paying like $3.50 a month. It's not a lot, it runs great. Like it never takes a hit. If I ever have to host anything dedicated on that box, I can definitely run another application on that box. No problem whatsoever. But let's get to the real question. How much money did I make? Not a lot. I wouldn't say not nothing. Enough to give away a copy of College Football 26. Let's just show the AdSense numbers. So here you go. This is how much I made on TeamCrafters within a month. Now, note, I've been monetized only since December, but yesterday, which was March 1st, or March 2nd actually, I made $2.56, which is an anomaly. It's 30% more than what I would have made any other Sunday. $13 a week, uh, $50 a month. Look, this isn't paying the bills. This is pretty much like fun money for me to go and buy Pokemon cards or something like that. I don't see myself quitting my day job anytime soon for this, but it is so cool and it is so satisfying to finally have a project that I feel is generating some kind of positive value in the end. You know, I fronted maybe about $50 for the domain, for the advertising and for the AI cost for the player card maker. But I finally reached my break even point for this. And, I made a payment so far of $124. It's satisfying. I love to see it, and I hope this continues to grow. Hey, I would love to run a website full time for my favorite video game, but $50 a month. Look. I'm just gonna turn the webcam back on. $50 a month doesn't pay for everything up there or over there. Mind the shaky webcam, but I'm not gonna be making a career change anytime soon. So that leads me to conclude in what is next for College Football 26 and what is next for TeamCrafters. I'm gonna keep working on it. Obviously, day job comes first. I am not compromising anything I do from my 9 to 5 for that. First and foremost, I have bills to pay. I have things to do. That comes first. But if I have time, I'm going to work on building a community around TeamCrafters. I'm going to go and I want to build a forum section. I want to build more community engagement within the website platform. I want to add interactions on the mobile app. Apple has their own forms of moderation that you have to do in there. I have to make sure I hold myself up to it in a way that is sustainable to keep the website running but not jeopardize my daily life, for the time being. Hey, maybe 20 years from now I'm retired or something and I can do this full time. Probably not happening, but you never know. I want to build UX improvements. I want to improve the UI. I want to make this the best site you've ever used. I want to make it better than anything the engineers over at EA will ever put out. I want EA to notice me for this. Like, I put a lot of work into this, and I try to, jokingly be like, hey, EA, give me a job. Being honest, I probably wouldn't accept a job from EA if I was offered it. But, hey, this is my first indie project that really gained traction. I want to be known as one of those indie hackers. Like, this is something that I hope I can put on a resume and give out to people and say, hey, this is something I did. Here's everything I did from 9 to 5, but here's everything I did from my 5 to 9. Everything in between, I can accomplish so much if you just let me. I want people that will pay me for advertisements on TeamCrafters. Like, they like to fly blimps in something in a TeamCrafters inspired vibe coded flight simulator, $1,500 a month blimps, if you know what I mean. But yeah, after the first very successful year, I really wanted to go and give back. And that's why at the beginning of the video, if you're watching before CFB 26 comes out, I'm just going to trim that part out after. But I want to give back and give away a lot of copies of College Football 26. The site makes profit. I'm not intending to make a lot of money from it. And let's build the community with it. So if you go on the link in the description, you'll see this link. Only 14 people have entered right now. I'm hoping to see a lot more zeros behind that. But you just link your Discord account, you join the server, because I'm probably going to announce the winner definitely on Discord, but I'll probably do a live stream as well on Twitch when that gets closer. And we're also having prize scaling. That's why I said I'm going to give away more than one copy. And the way that we're going to do this is I want to grow my indie hacker status. And I want to also grow something cool, Gamerpalooza. Twitch account that I ran back with my friends in high school. It got banned in 2017. 2024, we got GP back after 7 years. I am so happy that we finally got to do that. So we're going to take my combined Twitter followers and the combined followers of Gamerpalooza on Twitch. So as of posting, I have 468 followers on Twitter, and Gamerpalooza has 1.3K. That's around 2,000, just underneath. Now, for every time we get 5,000 followers, I'm going to add another copy into the pool. So that means if I get 2,500 followers and Gamerpalooza has 2,500 followers, I'm giving away 2 copies of CFB 26. Now it's only going to round down. So 19,550 only results in 3 copies giving away because that's going to go to the 15,000 threshold. I'm not asking for anything other than your support here. And if you want a greater opportunity at winning more copies in the pool, I really would recommend giving myself a follow, dropping a follow for Gamerpalooza, because we're starting to stream back on there again. And then as we get closer to the launch of CFB 26, I'm going to announce it in Discord, the winner. I'm going to likely live stream it just so we can have some sort of credible announcement for the winner, showing that I didn't handpick the result. This is not sponsored by anybody other than myself at this time. If somebody wants to pitch in and put more copies into the pool, let me know. I'll definitely give you a shout out. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I want to give a shout out again to EKI Butters for inspiring me to make another YouTube video, Omer for his Omni Zero model, Foul for handling the GPUs because those aren't cheap, and you for making TeamCrafters the success it is. Hopefully I'll see you guys sometime less than 7 years from now. Catch you later.